Phil here in the layer by layer layer. Now for this video I've been wondering, since I'm new to this 3D printing thing, does nozzle size really matter or is it all about how you use it? I got 4 different nozzle sizes hot and put them to work all night long with 4 different presets in Bambu Studio to answer one big question. How do you get great quality out of the printer without having to wait for days for a print to finish or without endless priming and sanding afterwards? Stick around to find out which nozzle and preset dynamic duo comes out on top. I was pretty surprised and I think you will be too. For this video, we are testing the 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, and 0.8 millimeter nozzles from BambuLab. Pro tip, buy the whole hot end instead of accidentally buying the whole nozzle like me, which will make swap outs a breeze, instead of having to transfer all the fiddly bits and deal with the thermal paste. Learning! I tested each nozzle with low, medium, and high layer height presets, plus variable layer height set to maximum quality, printed non-stop for 4 days, and put it all in a spreadsheet. I love a good spreadsheet. Also, I could decide how it is I'll print my creations in the future and to share this knowledge with you. Yes, you. I see you, Andrew. I found this amazingly detailed Davy Jones model on MakerWorld by Photosmint. Link in the description. This thing has many tiny details, like the barnacles, tentacles with little dividing lines, a detailed belt buckle, and rounded tops like the hat and the shoulder. I also tested using the venerable, if slightly tarnished reputationally as of late, Benchy, because every pirate needs his ship. I stuck to default preset settings with 2 tweaks: Arachne wall generation and support cubic infill. Why? Because the internet said Arachne was likely to be better for organic models like our good captain, and that support cubic printed relatively quickly with less filament. Could the internet be wrong? Never! But if it was by chance wrong in this case, please let me know in the comments. The prints were graded on time to print, filament use, print quality, and ease and cleanliness of support removal. And I printed them all in this lovely gray to make it easier to judge quality, but also to guarantee that they won't make an interesting thumbnail. A real pro move. The scores are all from 0 to 10, no pity points. We'll start off with general overview of each and then get to the numbers in spreadsheet. I love a good spreadsheet. Later. Let's start with the 0.8 millimeter nozzle. It sucks for my purposes. There was really bad stringing on the Benchy, and the layer lines at every layer height look like my waist in the suit pants I got when I graduated from college that I swear definitely still fit. For details? What details? The website at the bottom of the Benchy is blobby, the boat name on the back is gone, and poor Davy Jones has lost all of his barnacle buddies, and his shoulder and hat look terrible. There was one surprise, however. The highest layer height painted with absolutely no supports at all, so I suppose it gets a perfect score for ease of removal and cleanliness. Another negative of the 0.8 millimeter nozzle was the increased filament use, with it using about 5 grams more filament than the 0.6 millimeter nozzle, which at least explains how it got so thick. Now as for the 0.6 millimeter nozzle, it was mostly more of the same, but the bad was slimmed down a bit. Details were a little bit crisper, but stringing was still an issue, and layer lines remained very obvious. In a trend that continues, the bigger the nozzle, the more filament is used, but it only used about 3 grams more material than the 0.4 millimeter nozzle. Less bad than the 0.8 millimeter nozzle, but a lot, considering what I was getting for it. But now we get to the big contenders. Little contenders, I guess. The 0.2 and 0.4 millimeter nozzles. There weren't a ton of surprises here in terms of quality. The smaller the layer height, the better looking it was, and the 0.2 millimeter nozzle did in fact beat out the 0.4 millimeter nozzle in terms of overall quality, taking a perfect score of 20 at variable layer height, 10 for each model. But this isn't just a beauty contest. We're also looking at print time and filament use, and while the 0.2 millimeter nozzle was the quality king, it was also a time vampire. As mentioned earlier, the prints were scored on support removal, the cleanliness of that removal, and quality, with quality weighted 3 times more than the other metrics because that's what's most important ultimately for me. Then I subtracted points for each 15-minute increment of print time, and 1 point for each gram of filament used, because while quality matters, I also want to print other things at some point and don't want to eat through all of my filament. So for example, if support removal score was a 5 out of 10, cleanliness was a 10 out of 10, model quality was a 5 for each model, so 10 total out of 20. Filament used was 5 grams, minus 5 points. Print time was 1 hour, so minus 4 points. you'd get a total score for that of 36 points. And while the variable height with 0.2mm nozzle started with a perfect quality score, it plummeted from first place to fifth once all of this was factored in. Why? Because the quality difference between a 0.2mm nozzle with variable layer height and a 0.4mm nozzle at 0.08mm layer height is barely noticeable. Just look at these here and let me know in the comments which one you think is the 0.2mm nozzle and which one is the 0.4. And yet the 0.2mm nozzle took 9 hours to print. That is 6 extra hours to finish the job compared to the 0.4mm nozzle. That isn't all bad though, I suppose. With the extra 6 hours, I could finish all 3 extended Lord of the Rings movies instead of only being able to watch Fellowship. The support removal metric was also surprisingly impactful because there were several times where support removal was fairly difficult, and a few times where it was basically fused to the model. Now it is true that painting on supports would resolve this, but this test was specifically about just using almost entirely default and automatic everything. So with these factors taken in, what was the biggest loser? Well, the 0.2mm nozzle at 0.06mm layer height had a print time of 9 hours like the variable height one, and the supports were essentially part of the print. They were not coming off, so it didn't come off clean, and it didn't come off easily. Another nozzle and preset combo that took a hit is the 0.4mm nozzle with variable layer height, which had a respectable combined quality score of 16, but also suffered from supports as clingy as a Desperate X. After all the printing, support removing, and spreadsheeting, I love a good spreadsheet. The ultimate winner is the 0.4mm nozzle at 0.08mm layer height. Second place, the 0.2mm nozzle at 0.14mm layer height. And in a really shocking third place, the 0.6mm nozzle at 0.18mm layer height. Why did the 0.6mm nozzle do so well? Because while it only managed a combined quality score of 10, it did that in just 1 hour with incredibly easy to remove supports that basically fell off the model. While this quality is simply too low for my purposes, you have to respect something that gets reasonably good results while finishing fast. I came into this thinking that the 0.2mm nozzle would be my holy grail go-to nozzle. But after this test, I'm sticking with the 0.4mm nozzle and switching between 0.08 and 0.16mm presets, depending on the detail that I need. And guess what? I've already started my next project using the 0.16mm quality preset, and the pre-release reviews have been glowing. Here's a sneak peek. Want to see how it turned out? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Okay, sorry, one more quick thing at the end here that I forgot to include. Could you tell which of these was printed with a 0.2mm nozzle? Well, I can reveal now it was B. It really is pretty hard to tell in my opinion. And that's 1 point to anybody who got it right in the comments. Thanks for watching.